Hello, everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the Orion spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America. Somewhere south of a nation that just ousted Justin Trudeau. My name is Brian Engelman. Today is Monday, March 10th, 2025, and this is the TNAM AM Show here on the new American media because the old American media has failed you. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to talk about what Canada just did. Trudy is gone. Adios, Trudy. We have thoughts on this. So many other things to talk about. JD Vance was harassed by a bunch of people. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the attacks on Tesla, the attacks on the White House, the role that legacy media plays in all of this, the role that the Democrat Party plays in this, what we're supposed to do if we have terrorist organizations masquerading as a political party, in the case of the Democrats and in the case of the lying legacy media. They're causing brain damage to the people that consume mass quantities of their toxins. I read a report that Bobby Kennedy was going to be having some meetings with some large food producers this week. I mean, isn't it time that we have a top to bottom analysis of the poison that's being pumped into the United States? How are we going to be a successful, thriving nation if we're being poisoned every day? And I think we need to talk about it. What is Doge trying to accomplish? They're trying to stop every dollar of unnecessary spending. Well, the other side is getting really mad about it because that's what funds their craziness. And they're getting violent because they don't have good arguments. When words fail, you end up with violence. So we're going to discuss all of these stories and more on today's episode. Please hit like, please hit subscribe, however you are watching today's show. Hit the heart button, hit the thumbs up button. We are on the New American Media. We have a page on Facebook and Instagram and on Truth Social, Rumble, and YouTube, and Patreon, the New American Media. Our podcast is under the Agree to Disagree Show. That covers the TNAM AM Show and the Agree to Disagree Show. That's on Spotify and whatever. X, we're at American_media_. Telegram and Signal, we are TNAM and TNAM Chat. TNAM and TNAM Chat. Then, of course, if you would like to contribute and buy us a cup of coffee and help us keep the lights on, we are on PayPal at Fuzz Installment. We are on Cash App, $ Brian Engelman, and on Venmo at Brian Engelman. We are self-funded, so if you like what you see, please consider keeping us afloat. Let's talk about what's going on over here. Syria. This is from the Daily Mail. Let's expand this. If you're not aware of what's going on, it seems to be that Christians are under attack globally. Maybe this has been the case since Christ walked the earth. But it's really popping off in Syria now that Assad is gone. And President Trump was sort of prescient about that topic. Oh, you got to overthrow Assad. Assad gassed his own people, did he? Trump was calling this stuff out nearly a decade ago. Where did we share that? I think it's on our Instagram feed. So let's just get going into the news. By the way, please leave your comments. We will try to probably toss the comments onto the screen once you all jump in and populate the show. So this is Daily Mail reporting horror in Syria. 1,000 people have been killed in 2 days as the country is gripped by violence. Brutal revenge killings as the conflict-riddled nation is gripped by bloody clashes between its new rulers and loyalists of ousted President Bashar al-Assad. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said in addition to 745 civilians, mostly killed in massacres, 125 government security forces members and 148 militants with armed groups affiliated with Assad were killed. The violent clashes are some of the deadliest since Syria's conflict began 14 years ago and marked a major escalation in the challenge to the new government in Damascus, 3 months after insurgents took authority after removing Assad from power. Witnesses revealed how women were reportedly told to walk naked before being shot dead amid horrifying scenes in Syria. They added that electricity and drinking water were cut off in large areas around the city of Latakia. So there you go. This on the heels of all those reports coming out of the Congo that piles of Christians are being targeted for destruction. The things that happen outside of our borders don't matter. Or the things that happen outside of our borders do matter. Of course, making America great again means that you focus your priorities on the United States. But where Christians are being persecuted, shouldn't it be something that we all pay attention to? Shouldn't we take consideration into which puppet regimes we put in power? We're going to keep covering this story as it develops. Making America great again. Here's a question for Tom Homan. These disingenuous reporters trying to make it seem like, oh, you're protecting America and the American border, so you're harming families. Well, he's not having any of this. He turns this one around real quick.
On the enforcement operations early this morning in Virginia, just a question for you. When ICE encounters undocumented families, do you separate children from their parents?
No, there's no plans to separate families. Matter of fact, I've noticed recently there's news articles saying Tom Homan is suggesting family detention again, family residential centers, and I am. Family residential centers are the opposite of family separation. Why we even talk about family residential centers? Because this administration, President Trump, wants to make sure these children aren't victims of trafficking. He wants to make sure this family is really a family. This is about saving children, protecting children. Let's talk about DNA testing, getting back to enforce the law and at the same time protecting children, which the last administration didn't do.
I was on the enforcement operations early this morning in Virginia. Just a question for you.
I don't know who that reporter is. But our comment was that lying legacy media pretending that protecting children is harming children. The deep state Democrats always seem to project the damage they're doing onto their opponents. It is their MO. It is their standard operating protocol. You have no idea if any of these people are actually related to the people who are claiming them. The amount of human trafficking, human slavery, human abuse is through the roof. And it's happening right here in our country. So no, when you're doing DNA tests, they took DNA tests away under Biden. I mean, I've never seen anything so blatantly malicious, blatantly demonic as I've seen with the Biden administration. Trafficking children to God knows who for God knows what purposes. That is as vile as it gets. And putting systems back in place where you can track who people are. You don't just assume that they're part of a family. You assume that someone might be trying to cause them harm. And President Trump and Tom Homan seem to be stopping this. Speaking about harm, did you see this? That's Joe Biden. Comes over, puts his hand on the back of Melania, then rubs his hand down the small of her back onto her butt, grazing her bottom, and then Trump and others come to protect Melania. Trump says, hey, what was that? And she takes a step toward him. And then others come over to see what's going on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. He's a creepy, touchy pervert. DC Drano said, whatever happened, it was enough for Melania to look uncomfortable and for President Trump and others to intervene. This is the Nimbus. I'm trying to broadcast over here. My cat likes to talk too. He's like, oh, Dad's talking. I'm going to talk too. Thanks, buddy. Let's just see how long before he jumps up on the screen here. Yeah. This is the Joe Biden that had inappropriate showers with his daughter, Ashley. This is Joe Biden that raised that absolute creep, Hunter Biden. Look at the laptop. Look at all of his debauchery. I've never seen this video. Maybe it's much ado about nothing. Yes. Is this show about you now? Come on. All right. We'll see if Nimbus makes an appearance now. Anyway, I hadn't seen this video before, so I wanted to share it with you. There goes Nimbus. Hey, what are you doing? No. Just walks up here and starts pulling on stuff, knocking papers around. No, we're not doing that, buddy. Good grief. All right, next story. Breitbart sharing this. LA Times is saying that Mayor Karen Bass is deleting her text messages. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is deleting her text messages, thus defeating efforts by media organizations to obtain them as government communications subject to public records request, according to the Los Angeles Times. The Times reported that it had been unable to obtain Bass's text messages concerning her overseas trip to Ghana, during which the LA fires broke out, because they were automatically deleted and the city had not retained them. The Times reported she and her office have said she was in constant communication during that period, but it's impossible to know exactly what she was communicating because her messages were not saved, according to a city lawyer. Her phone is not set to save text messages, said the lawyer, David Michelson. He said there is no requirement that city official or employee save text messages, despite the fact that the city's own document retention policies dictate that most records should be kept for at least 2 years. The Times suggests that Bass is violating both state law and the city's own administrative code. Breitbart News has written to the office of LA County District Attorney Nathan Hochman to ask whether he intends to investigate or pursue legal action against the mayor over her messages. Was Bass actually involved? Julian Assange confirming that Tucker Carlson's reporting that the CIA was planning on murdering him. Let's take a listen to Assange.
Drew up plans to kidnap and to assassinate me within the Ecuadorian embassy in London and authorized going after my European colleagues, subjecting us to theft, hacking attacks, and the planting of false information. My wife and my infant son were also targeted. A CIA asset was permanently assigned to track my wife, and instructions were given to obtain DNA from my 6-month-old son's nappy. The criminalization of news-gathering activities is a threat to investigative journalism everywhere. I was formally convicted by a foreign power for asking for, receiving, and publishing truthful information about that power while I was in Europe. Journalists should not be prosecuted for doing their jobs. Journalism is not a crime. It is a pillar of a free and informed society. The CIA drew up plans to kidnap and to assassinate me within the Ecuadorian embassy in London.
So, the First Amendment of the United States Constitution protects freedom of speech, religion, press, assembly, and petition. Or it doesn't. Now we know he's not American. But also, either these things are protected or they're not. And the criminalization, the attempted criminalization of journalists, you know, and abuse to that anywhere is abuse to it everywhere. Running the new American media here, I would certainly prefer to not be targeted because journalism is what keeps corruption at bay. Journalism is what keeps tyrants terrified. When you have a lapdog media and a lying legacy media, you get these you have calls to weird violence. You have an echo chamber of craziness. You need to have journalists reporting on what's happening. Buddy, please. Wasn't doing this all morning until I started broadcasting. Now Nimbus is talking up a storm. Over the weekend, you saw that we sprung ahead. It went from this hour to that hour. What is it, 2 o'clock? What hour? Where did that come up here? What hour do we spring ahead? Is it 3 a.m.? 2 a.m.? 2 a.m. Sunday, March 9th. At that moment, clocks jump forward 1 hour to 3 a.m. Thomas Massey here from the great state of Kentucky says, don't forget to set your debt clocks ahead, $200 million. That's how much we go into debt each hour. Good grief. I mean, do you even realize how much $200 million is? Like, we don't even think of this stuff as real money. It's time to take control of these air quote debts and reset things. Reset with the debtors. Get some power and control back in our lives and our government. Get some purchase power back in our currency. Roseanne Barr here talking about just really the state of affairs where we've ended up right now in 2025. You remember the craziness when President Trump was elected his first term. It was nonstop lunacy. At least right now, it was a landslide win for MAGA. Nobody's taking the left seriously, and Roseanne takes it even a step further. She says, we are at the point where anyone identifying as a Democrat should just be pointed at and laughed at. That's it. No more arguing, just point and laugh. I'd like to see this become a trend. We've argued and reasoned long enough. Anyone that hasn't woken up yet will never wake up. They don't deserve our energy or sympathy any longer. Point and laugh. Point and laugh button. It really is absolutely out of control, and it's impossible to communicate with people. It's impossible to communicate with those on the left. They are in a totally different universe than we are. Are we supposed to try to engage them and win them over with common sense and logic? To what end? For what point? They're completely out to lunch watching MSNBC and CNN, getting a totally different worldview. And it's not based on reality. It's just not. The blatant falsehoods, from drinking bleach to fine people hoaxes, go down the list. Almost every major talking point from the left is just a lie. It's a hoax. Oh, Trump's going to take your Social Security. Trump's going to take your Medicare and your Medicaid. Is he? Is he?
Growth like you've never seen before.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you said that.
We're going to have growth. I'm not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Now, we're going to get fraud out of there. You know, you see where I talk about it all the time. We have people 250 years old and all, you know, tremendous fraud. But that has nothing to do with that. We're going to get the fraud out, and everybody wants us to get the fraud out, and therefore you'll make it better. But we're going to have tremendous growth. When you look at all of the car companies that are now coming into the United States, and they've been announcing, like on a daily basis, they're going to build their plants and they're going to create tremendous numbers of jobs and so many other things. And I'm doing something else that I think is very exciting. Maybe I'm wrong. A gold card. For $5 million, you buy a path to citizenship in this country. We'll see. I believe that Apple and all these companies that can't get people to come out of college and come because they get thrown out. Think of it. You graduate #1 at the Wharton School of Finance or Harvard or Stanford, and you get thrown out of the country. You can't stay more than 1 day. And they want to hire these people, but they can't. They've complained to me about it. Now they can buy a gold card, and they can take that gold card and make it a part of their deal to get these top students. no different than an athlete, like a bonus. It's a signing bonus. And you're going to have a lot of people buy that. You're going to have a lot of companies buying gold cards. So for $5 million now, it's a lot of money when you add it up if we sell a lot of them.
Yeah.
If we don't, it's nothing ventured, nothing lost. But I think it's going to be very successful. You can't get a green card. A green card, this would be a green card on steroids. This would be much better than a green card. We're going to have growth like you've never seen before.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you said that.
We're going to have growth. I'm not going to touch Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Now, we're going to get fraud out of there. You know, you see where I talk about it all the time. We have people 250 years old and all, you know, tremendous fraud. But that has nothing to do with that. We're going to get the fraud out, and everybody wants us to get the fraud out. And therefore, we
got to get the fraud out. And that's not cutting Medicare. That's stopping the stealing. These programs are going bankrupt because the liberals they've entrenched it. I don't even want to play some of these videos. I just saw something that I would like to unsee. Jihadists in Syria crucifying and then killing a Christian. Oh, man. I'm not going to share that one. But there is evil in this world. Man. Oh, God. Yeah, I want to unsee that. But yeah, a major killing spree of Christians and other innocent civilians in Syria, and the lying legacy media is silent. And Laser the Conservative says this is what the left would be doing to conservatives here in America if they could. Regime change always ends the same way, in bloodshed and heartache. God, I really want to unsee that other video. Person tied up on a cross and then brutally destroyed. You got to stand for something or you'll fall for anything. Damn. Really want to unsee what I just saw. Here is a conversation shared by Implicit Bias Radio. How Washington launders your tax dollars. They steal your money, and then what do they do with it?
Dirty little secret in Washington is for the last, my entire life, 40, 50 years, probably longer, the boys club in Washington, D.C. has been, they are laundering our taxpayer money in the form of foreign aid, which is leaving our borders, crossing the planet, coming back into the country, to a bunch of LLCs owned by all of the distant relatives or friends of these
foundations.
Foundations. There we go.
Foundations.
That's right. So, and Trump was a big threat to upending that apple cart, and I'm hoping we see something come of that. I think the dirty little secret in Washington is
upend the apple cart button. There we go. That's why they want to get rid of him, because they're all in on it. The Western Journal here says, while screaming about Doge, media has While screaming about Doge, the media has conveniently forgotten about anti-Trump IRS worker who leaked 400,000 tax records. Remember that one? Yeah, when they have control, they behave like scoundrels. When the shoe is in the foot, they can't stop complaining and crying about it. On the other foot. Just a little piece of information to know. You want to know about this? Enoch Burke, a Christian school teacher in Ireland, will be stripped of his salary after refusing they-them pronouns for a air quote, transgender student.
High Court this morning again before Mr. Justice David Nolan, who's continuing in his quest to strip Enoch Burke of his assets, of his salary, because of his refusal to accept the denial of his constitutional rights. And we have Mr. Brian Kennedy, Senior Counsel, here in for the Attorney General Rossa Fanning. Long discussions this morning about how best to strip Enoch Burke's salary from him. A lot of technical information about...
So you can look into that story. It's happening all across the globe. The United States took a major step forward by stopping some of this tyranny. But once again, where it's happening across the globe, it needs to be known, and we need to help these people restore sanity again. Jordan Peterson was absolutely right about compelled speech. It sounded, it almost felt like he was being a little too hyperbolic. Oh, come on. It's not like it's going to be bad. It's bad. You can be arrested in the UK for having memes on your phone, for saying mean words. Yeah. God bless our freedom of speech. But if Assange is being taken out by the CIA, if people are being arrested for speaking out, this stuff threatens our way of life everywhere. And our way of life needs to be following our strict guidelines. Bill of Rights, the basic core tenets of what makes this country great, allegedly. But we're so far off track, it's hard to even fathom getting back on track, in all honesty. I mean, people, capitalism's so bad. It's like the United States hasn't had capitalism in a long time. It's been cronyism, fascism for as far back as you can look. There's nothing that's really left to the market devices. There's so much interference. There's so much scale tipping. I would love to see what it looks like when you actually get out of the way and stop the coercion. And the coercion from theft, then redistribution of that stolen money into non-governmental organizations, the deep state Democrat organizations. It's super popular that President Trump is working with Doge to root it all out and stop it finally. How could you ever vote Democrat again? You really have to, at this point, what did Roseanne say? There's no more negotiating with these people. They just have to be defeated on every level, and nobody should ever vote for that party again. They've lost the consent of the governed. And on CNN, they're trying to make it seem like, oh, Doge, oh my gosh, can you believe people are so upset? No, they're not. They love this.
What do you think?
Well, if Donald Trump likes to be popular, he must be loving life right now because he's more popular than he's ever been. I mean, his approval
That's a low bar, though.
His approval is good.
It is a low bar.
The Doge effort is popular. I don't know if you guys saw Harry Enton's reporting on this morning, but the Doge effort is popular. And he also reminded us today, he's the president. He's running the country. Elon Musk works for him. The cabinet works for him.
If Doge is so popular, then why not? Then why say, oh, well, we've got to let you guys do it? And he's talking now all of a sudden. It's a reversal in tone, right? Instead of saying there's way too...
Right. It's a reversal in tone, right? Ooh, I hate when people do that, right? Ugh. It's usually, not every time, I've probably done it a couple of times myself. But it's usually when you're being manipulated, right? That someone puts that in there, right? So that like you're kind of nodding and suggesting it to them, right? So that you're more likely to just go, right. And that shit probably works on school children, which is why we need to remove the Department of Education, send this stuff back to the states, right? And stop indoctrinating them, right? Right? Give them the crazy eyes and the crazy ideas, right?
Too many people in the government. He's saying we've got lots of people that are actually pretty good.
And that's absolutely true. And I'm sure he's got cabinet secretaries saying, well, look, you hired me to run this cabinet, and I need you to give me a little bit of authority here. And I don't much care whether they use a scalpel, a chainsaw, a sledgehammer, or a Mack truck. I'm just a Republican, like all the rest of the Republicans, that's wondering, how did the government get so big in the last 5 years? Yep. From 2019, pre-COVID, to 2024, we went from spending $4.5 trillion to $6.2 trillion. All any Republican wants to know is, does the government have to be this big? What do you think? Well,
no, the government does not have to be this big. Trump and MAGA are very popular, and we're sick of being stolen from. Let's go, Doge. Here's a reminder. James Lee put this out. Unbeaten Pathway shared it. When asked why he gave Jeffrey Epstein a non-prosecution deal in 2007, former U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta said he's been told to back off, that Epstein was above his pay grade. I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone. Now, which intelligence? Time to expose it all. If Pam Bondi won't do it, she needs to be replaced immediately. There you go. Marco Rubio talking about Doge. He says, after a 6-week review, we are officially canceling 83% of the programs at USAID. The 5,200 contracts that are now canceled spent tens of billions of dollars in ways that did not serve, and in some cases even harmed, the core national interests of the United States. In consultation with Congress, we intend for the remaining 18% of programs we are keeping, approximately 1,000, to now be administered more effectively under the State Department. Thank you to Doge and our hardworking staff who worked very long hours to achieve this overdue and historic reform. That's so 80% of this reallocated money in U.S. aid was just pure awful? How was this ever allowed? Thanks, Doge. All right, so Rubio's like, hold on, let's not get rid of everything. Let's not get rid of everything now. I have a job to do in the State Department. I need a little bit of, I got some stuff I need to kind of, let me do some stuff here. Now my other cat's meowing from the other room. I don't get it. We've all been fed. I think they just hear me going on and on. But yeah, we're going to talk about it because in the budget, it looks like the Congress has said these budgets that they want to pass for MAGA in the House and Senate, they are massive spending budgets. Why are we cutting money if we're not going to cut the spending? Yes, we're cutting the current things that are on the books, but we have to cut the next stuff that we're on the books. I can only say I want to cut spending massively because this is madness. We're on a surefire pathway to self-destruction, bankruptcy. But, you know, I think back to when I was anything big that I did when I was a concert director and I had to book a $100,000 I didn't have to, but I wanted to book a concert. Well, my advisors wouldn't let me do that until I was able to find $50,000. They gave me an operating budget of $9,785. 20% of what I needed. Essentially, what Marco Rubio's left with, 18% of what he had. But I had to get budget reallocations, co-sponsorships, begging and pleading, kicking and screaming. I had to figure it out, and I was able to find $40,000 at my college campus. And then when I was able to show my student activities director, hey, I got 50 grand in my account. Let me book the $100,000 show. She's like, that's what I told you. We'll do it now. Now the most we could lose is 50 grand. All right, let's go. I was like, yes. So I am very concerned that we're spending too much. But on the flip side, whether it's putting on a concert or when I was working in my homeowners association, we had to raise the dues for everybody. Our monthly fees doubled. Not all at once, 20%. There was minimums or maximums rather, without taking it to like a direct vote to every single owner. And it's very hard to get those ballots back, pro, against, or indifferent. We went up incrementally to the point where we doubled our dues, but then we painted every building. We replaced roofs. We fixed driveways. We did landscaping, irrigation, sprinkler timers so that all the water would go off at 3 a.m. So most of it would be absorbed into the grass and not evaporated during the middle of the day, which was illegal anyway. So we sort of had to do it if we wanted green lawns. Put in all these urban gardens, but all that took money. You know, the reason why everything had fallen apart the way that it did is because we didn't raise our dues to basically keep up with inflation even. So every year we were falling further and further behind, almost went bankrupt during that housing crash. So I get the need for people to have money. I wish we could spend less than we spent last year. If there was a way to do that, I would be very in favor of it. So we're going to talk about that. Peter Sweden, we'll talk about that when we get through the budget stuff here. Peter Sweden saying Romania has banned Calin Georgescu from running for president. He won the first round of elections before they overturned it. Now he's leading in the polls again. So now they simply banned him from running. This is what they tried to do to Trump. Insurrection, insurrection, insurrection. There's an insurrection. Did you see the insurrection? Huh? The one where the president said, go peacefully and patriotically and make your voices heard? That wasn't an insurrection. That was a mostly peaceful protest. And then some people did some things. And there were people on the inside working with it. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. They were framing Trump to hurry up and rubber stamp this thing through so that the 7 fraud states, swing states, were able to have their numbers counted. Why count those numbers? You pause the election on election night. Trump's up hundreds of thousands in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Georgia, all these. Was it North Carolina? Trump was up in all of these swing states, fraud states. And then they all paused and said, I was doing the live show, drinking some bourbon, like, all right, call it. Let's go. You know, Trump has been reelected. Pelosi had to ram it through really quick. Oh, we're so angry about this insurrection. And the point was to try to convict him of something and say, aha, he's an insurrectionist. He can't run for office again. So we stopped him this time and we blocked him from the next time. Ha, ha, ha. We're so smart in the deep state. F them and the deep state they rode in on. The ones destroying this country. So anyway, Peter Sweden says, this is happening in a European Union country, by the way. So we'll say, remember when the Democrat deep state tried to do this to President Trump by calling him an INSURRECTIONIST. Shame on all of them. I used to work with a guy and he couldn't stand the shame on you stuff. He had such a visceral reaction to shame on you and, oh, these people that say shame and shame on you. But I just used it. Okay. Next. Raging West says, Calin, Georgia. Calin? I'm trying it as Calin. I don't know if that's accurate. Georgescu issues a chilling warning to Europeans. If democracy in Romania falls, the entire democratic world will fall. This is just the beginning. Europe is under dictatorship. Europe has also been forcefully invaded. Europe is in dire straits. The people running the UK hate the people in the UK. The people running Ireland hate the people in Ireland. The people running in Sweden. It's just, it's getting way worse. And that's what America was on path to. Thank God we turned the corner. Elon Musk here saying an investigation has found that, according to Real America's Voice, an investigation has found 5 Act Blue funded groups are responsible for Tesla protests. Troublemakers, Disruption Project, Rise and Resist, Indivisible Project, and Democratic Socialists of America. Act Blue founders include George Soros, Reid Hoffman, Hubert Sandler, Patricia Bowman, and Leah Hunt Hendricks. What's on your mind, guy? Gave you your food, didn't I? Act Blue is currently under investigation for allowing foreign and illegal donations in criminal violation of campaign finance regulations. This week, 7 Act Blue senior officials resigned, including the Associate General Counsel. If you know anything about this, please post it in the replies. Thanks, Elon. And by the way, 7 senior officials resigning from Act Blue doesn't mean that they are guilty. They might see the writing on the wall and go, "Ah, crap. I don't want to be anywhere near this when this collapses. This ship is sinking. I am out." So it's, did the chicken, which came first, the chicken or the egg? That's not necessarily implying guilt from these people. But it is telling that the rats might be jumping ship. Look, people are getting upset about Elon and President Trump because guess what? We figured out why these people, these professional protesters, are getting paid. All this AstroTurf nonsense, all this Democrat deep state debauchery. I think we figured it out.
The Democrats say that Elon Musk and Doge are overstepping their bounds. You're right. What Elon Musk and Doge has been able to uncover is unbelievable. Half of us did not even realize.
And stop there. It's because look, stop there. You just said what he's done is unbelievable. Now you could then add some. Well, but what about he's found hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fake contracts, and I read them, just a tiny portion of them, the other night. Transgender surgery on mice, the money they're spending on all of this stuff, the whole thing's a scam. And you'll find ultimately that the money that they sent comes back to a lot of the people that made those deals, okay? You're going to find that. What he's also done is made people realize how many people should be cut. Because normally you go in and you say, all right, cut 4% of your workforce. He said cut 50%, 60%, 70%. That's a big thing. Now, he's done a great job. And he's paying a price for it.
He said he
didn't
had
need
death
this.
threats.
He's paying a price for it, I guess. I don't know. He actually is a real patriot. This is something that's really not good for him, and yet he's doing it. But he's opened a lot of eyes.
Look, the Democrats say that Elon Musk and Doge are overstepping their bounds.
And by the way,
you're right. What Elon Musk and Doge has been.
By the way, President Trump has had to sacrifice a lot as well. President Trump, come on, they're shooting at him. They've tried to take his plane out multiple times. That's not widely reported, but that's, we're not out of the woods. There are so many people that depend on all of this thievery to get by. Whoa, look at that crazy face on her. Woo. I paused that at a strange time.
Been able to uncover is
Okay, maybe she just has those crazy eyes. There is nothing that a deep state Democrat won't sacrifice. And by the way, deep state, when I say deep state Democrat, that includes Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham. It includes the rhinos who are Republicans in name only. There is nothing about America that deep state Democrats won't sacrifice to maintain power and control. And there's no limit to how much a MAGA member, Republican, needs to sacrifice in order to keep America a great country. It's easy to join their thievery club. You just got to get some blackmail on you. Hey, everybody's done this. You do it. I did it. Everyone does it. And that's the way we make sure nobody gets out of line. Join our team. Yeah, Elon's taken time to rise up and defend America against dirty, deep state Democrats. And so now they're coming after Elon and Trump. DJ Freedom Rockets here. He says, if I filed on my tax returns that I've only ever made $130,000 a year, but my net worth was $30 million, the IRS would audit me yesterday. When a politician does it, radio silence. Doge says $312 million in loans were given to children during COVID pandemics. 5,593 loans, almost 6,000 loans, went to borrowers whose only listed owner was 11 years old or younger at the time of the loan. Where are the indictments? Man. Marjorie Taylor Greene says the Democrats have completely lost their way. They fight to trans your child, to put men in women's sports, and are now protesting Tesla with lies about Elon Musk. Reality is they are really upset that Doge is cutting off their back doors to money laundering taxpayer money through NGOs and foreign wars like Ukraine. Preach, MTG. Time to take the dirty, deep state out to the dustbin of history. They're going down.
Pedophilia is pedophilia.
This is Tulsi Gabbard. This is why we love Tulsi Gabbard, talking with Sean Ryan.
Period. Full freaking stop. As you said, if we're not willing to stand up for the most vulnerable among us and our children, what are we doing?
I feel like people standing up for the kids with the pedophilia and the gender affirming care. And yeah, guess what? Maybe your 8-year-old does want to be the opposite gender. It's an 8-year-old.
Exactly.
He also wants to be a pilot. And he wants to be an astronaut.
Exactly.
And he wants to be a YouTuber or whatever.
I was like a tomboy of tomboys growing up. I had short hair, wore like boys' shorts and t-shirts everywhere I went. If I were growing up today, whether through public schools or social media, I guarantee you that external push and pressure would have been there. We're like, oh, well, obviously you like to do the things that the boys are doing. They would have told me, well, you're obviously stuck in the wrong body. Like, let us help you feel more at home. Like, whatever. The nonsense and the bullshit that they're seeding into our kids' minds. Pedophilia is pedophilia.
Hard stop. We're not allowing any of this. Line in the sand. Protect the kids. Period. Protect the women. Protect the kids. Here's Rogan talking about the insane spending.
He's doing is uncovering insane corruption. That should be the primary thought that everybody has is, oh my God, we have this enormous deficit, but spending is completely out of control. And look what it's being spent on, because this is the first time we're ever getting a fucking peek into the coffin.
Yeah.
We didn't know. We're like, we see it, it's in the dark room, we hear the fucking organ. We didn't know what was in the coffin.
Yeah.
Now we do.
And I do think you have to like salt the earth too, where all the DEI stuff is.
But what he's doing is uncovering insane corruption. That should
salt the earth. By the way, on your side, is X working appropriately? I've had
What, bud?
I've had some problems loading X today. Easy, Tiger. It's just spinning and thinking. Something went wrong. Try reloading X. Maybe today's show is only going to be half as long if I can't get to my X stories. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Representative Brian,
if you want to know,
talking about these Democrats who are going after Elon.
Where the real corruption is, let's look at which side of the aisle has been benefiting from this slush fund that we've been giving out with very little accountability. It tends to be left-wing pet projects, left-wing media like NPR and PBS, who always routinely run cover for Democrats while attacking Republicans. It's left-wing advocacy groups and NGOs that are taking our tax dollars and promoting DEI programs and transgender surgeries and girl-powered climate action, whatever that means. These are all left-wing movements that are being funded by our tax dollars. And it raises the question of how successful would the leftist political movement be in America if it weren't for the fact that their whole movement is subsidized by taxpayers. That is what corruption is. And if you want to know where the real corruption is, let's look at which side of the aisle has been benefiting from this slush fund that we've been giving giving out with very little accountability. It tends to be left-wing pet projects, left-wing media.
We said the deep state Democrats protest too much. They are caught with their hand in the cookie jar. It's time to defund all their debauchery already. Time to promote common sense MAGA movements from now on. Enough is enough. No more political piracy from the Democrats. Washington Examiner reporting this. Attorney General Pam Bondi, who I am ready to have removed forcefully from her position for not releasing the Epstein files. Feel as though she's running cover. Maybe someone told her this is a American intelligence gathering system and it's above your pay grade. You can't expose it, which is why she hasn't exposed it. Abusing children is not okay. It's just not. And if a foreign government's involved, out them. Oh, but what if they're an ally? You're not no ally. You ain't no ally to me. If that's the shit you've been up to. You ain't no ally. Nope. You could have just as easily had 18-year-old prostitutes. No, you had to go to children and slavery and abuse and all the stuff that was on Anthony Weiner's laptop, allegedly. No. No, there is no making deals with these people. You don't negotiate with cockroaches. Anyway, Attorney General Pam Bondi says regarding Boston Mayor Michelle Wu, when she sent condolences to a person who police say attempted to stab patrons. Pam Bondi said as a result of the mayor's decision to side with public safety threats over law-abiding citizens, Department of Justice will have no choice but to increase efforts in the city of Boston. Criminals will be prosecuted, illegal aliens will be arrested, and justice will be served. That all sounds great, Pam. But where the hell are the Epstein files? Release them or resign. Buddy, what? I'm doing a show now. Just trying to do a show. So here's a video. This is, according to Graham Allen, at a Bernie Sanders event. He had a singer. It was a guy LARPing as a woman, Laura Jane Grace. You hear that? Does your God have a big fat because it feels like he's effing me? Watch the sign language person. She's like, what? Why do I? Oh, boy. Do you think she knew what she was signing up for? Did you get the pun? What she was signing up for? Yeah, this is exactly why Trump won. Have at it. As the Dems said in their cringe video game video, choose your fighter. Choose this or choose MAGA. Which one do you want to be? All right, let's get into Canada. Alex Jones says it's one big sick club. Canada's new prime minister is friends with Ghislaine Maxwell. How soon before Pierre can take over? Because that's the part of the deal. Trudeau resigned, but I guess no later than October is when Canada's going to have their election. This was a replacement, kind of like how they took Joe Biden out and put Kamala Harris in. No votes. It was just, we're going to install this next person. So there's that. We'll get to more of this, but yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell tribes. It's one big sick club, allegedly. That's not good. Here's Rogan talking about how crazy, like Roseanne said, when did the Democrats go crazy? There's common sense ideas and normal policies that the Democrats are just still freaking out over. And it's like, you're going to need to go sit in a padded room if we can't negotiate with you, if we can't work with you. There's nobody in the right mind that should be against poison in our foods and insane spending with $36 trillion on our national credit card. Cut every piece of non-essential funding and stop poisoning us. But no, if Trump's for it, they have to be against it. I've said this 1,000 times, and I've seen it happen in other areas as well. If Trump came out and said, "Hey, you know, the weather's going to be great today. I look forward to our meeting in the Rose Garden at the White House. We'll have a press conference out there." He'd show up, and all the lying legacy media would be wearing galoshes and raincoats, umbrellas. They are so warped. They can never let anything Trump says go without being opposed. And it's lunacy. It's a mental illness. You can dislike policy, but you can't avoid reality.
Now all of a sudden I've seen like people on the left that are trying to dismiss a lot of the things that he says about additives in food, about atrazine, fluoride in the wall, all these different things, because now they're connecting not having toxins in your food with a right-wing idea.
It's crazy. It's mind-blowing.
It's so bananas. Like even being healthy, fitness, they're connecting fitness with a right-wing idea.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Well, and it raises one of my sort of core political beliefs is that our politics is focused on fake shit and distractions to distract us from the real stuff.
now all of a sudden I've seen like people on the left.
Yeah, that was obviously from the J.D. Vance interview prior to the election. We said RFK Jr. needs to focus on fixing the mental health of people who've been abused with brain damage by watching the lying legacy media. Those poor souls who march with the deep state need help. They really do. Carolyn Levitt. What's up, David? How are you, sir? Welcome to the show. Yeah, I can do that one. Why are we still waiting? Yeah, arrest the mayor of Boston. Yeah, Canada, the new guy is just as bad. And how does he get to run the country? Yeah, it's but the election is coming up no later than October. So that's when Pierre Poilievre will have his chance. But my understanding is he's like 95%. Canada can't stand this Trudeau thing. They think that changing the messenger is going to let them stay in power. Just like they thought, oh, if we put Kamala up, well, Kamala was actually worse than Biden. I mean, not worse in some ways. It doesn't matter who the messenger is if the message is shit. If the message is garbage, it doesn't matter who the messenger is. Caroline Levitt here, talking about messaging. She says it would be a gift to Democrats to allow them to shut down the government and therefore shut down the momentum that President Trump and the Republicans have built over the last 7 weeks. Yeah, I would just like to see this budget have less spending in it. Cut the spending a little bit. Cut it back a little bit. Spend less than you spent last year. All these savings from Doge doesn't really amount to a pile of beans if you go spending more than you spent last year. It's the Dave Ramsey thing. It's about money in and it's about money out. You either have an earning problem or a spending problem. The United States doesn't have a collection problem. It has a spending problem. We said, cool story. Don't spend so much in the budget and pass it then. The first draft spent way too much, and that's not okay. So that story is going to be coming up real fast. Jed Y says President Trump won the House and the Senate. He has endorsed a new continuing resolution that will allow us to carry his agenda further. A yes CR bill and a yes on the soon-to-come Doge Act will eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse, deliver real budget cuts, secure the America First agenda, and drain the swamp. What does this say? Is this cut off? Yes. The House and the Senate have put together, under the circumstances, a very good funding bill, CR. All Republicans should vote, please. Yes, next week. Great things are coming for America, and I'm asking you all to give us a few months to get us through to September so we can continue to put the country's financial house in order. Democrats will do anything they can to shut down our government, and we can't let that happen. We have to remain united, no dissent, fight for another day when the timing is right. Very important, make America great again. You know, I'm going to reluctant. I would like to see less spending. They're just trying to do a CR to September. Right around the time Canada should be getting Pierre Poilievre to take over. I would really like to see a smaller budget, though, on this continuing resolution. But I get it. He's jumped into the middle of something. He didn't create the situation he finds himself in. He just didn't. So to give him a little bit of grace to get things figured out, doggone it, I don't want to, Charlie Brown, she moves the football as you're kicking it, and you wah, wah, you trusted him. I'm torn. I don't want to say this is okay, but I sort of get it. Same with the Doge dividend check. It's like, we're 36 trillion in debt. You don't get payouts for that. Here's a gold star. Here's a check. Go spend some money. It's like, but we're also in a bit of a mess. There might be baby steps involved with large scale things that are happening as we try to wind down 2 wars.
Bill, we don't.
This is Representative Harris.
Need the Department of Education.
Something that we need to cut. I thought that was going to happen last week. I didn't see that it actually happened, though.
So why is the Department of Education failing? Well, because it spends its time, instead of promoting reading, writing, and arithmetic, old-fashioned as that might be, because we're dismally failing on the reading and arithmetic part of the NAEP, which I'll get to in a second, it spends its time promoting gender identity, men and women's bathrooms, men playing women's sports. Yeah, go look. The Title IX regulation was published on a Department of Education letterhead.
And the Title IX thing has gone absolutely bonkers because of some radical interpretation. It was never intended to be what this is. It was just saying, oh, yeah, you should fund, there's girls' sports and they should kind of get the same amount of funding as the guys' sports, even though it's only the guys' sports that generates revenue. Yeah, but our soccer team does generate revenue. Yeah, but our lacrosse team does. Yes, there are exclusions where some of the teams make a couple of bucks, but in general, when you have to factor in how much money is being spent on the facilities, the support staff versus ticket sales and merch sales, yeah, Connecticut women's basketball, and there's a couple of places that are doing well, but most of them are not. In Title IX, I mean, I understand wanting to provide services at colleges, but it's the football teams and the basketball teams, the men's teams that are bringing in the money. And most of that money is being taken and given to sports that are not generating revenue. It's not fair. That's a conversation for another day. But what they've done to Title IX to completely bastardize what the purpose of it was, that stuff needs to be undone post-haste, 100%. Yeah, I think it's fine that there are ladies' sports, but, you need to kind of have a little bit of an honest assessment of what we have and what we're looking at and how it works,
That's why we don't need a Department of Education, because it's not concentrating on what we should do, which is making sure that our students read and write and know arithmetic. That's what we should be concentrating on. Names on the bill.
Yep. But really, weren't we supposed to eliminate the Department of Education last week? When is that supposed to happen? Robbie Starbuck says the Department of Education just launched a new website, enddei.ed.gov, where parents can submit reports of DEI and illegal woke behavior in publicly funded K-12 schools. The Department of Education will use submissions to identify areas for investigation. This is the way. Thank you, President Trump. The kids have been abused for too long with this woke stuff, trying to make them feel guilty about who they are, shameful about who they are, shameful about America. Enough is enough. New York Post here reporting that Biden used his auto pen signature on many official White House docs, which is raising concerns over his awareness of what was happening. Dozens of executive orders signed by former resident Joe Biden, authorized with identical auto pen signatures, raising crucial questions about whether he was fully aware of what he was signing. So yeah, can we undo every executive order that he signed? Of course, it was Obama in the basement that held the pen. We knew that. This dementia-rattled freak. Once we unpack what happened in 2020, I mean, this whole 4-year fiasco should have never happened. And if there's a way to undo some of the stuff that he did, I'm all about it. David saying, I'm wondering why you would even think about paying off a debt to the same evil people you're supposedly trying to take out. None of this makes sense. Yeah, we can't keep running on the same financial system. No, we can't. We absolutely cannot. We've known that for a while. What will the new one look like? I mean, geez, that Bitcoin strategic reserve is massive. Talking about getting rid of the Federal Reserve, getting rid of the income tax, the IRS. Yeah, maybe his actions can be invalidated, Joe Biden. Yep, let me switch it again. There we go. MAGA motion says, wait until the Trump administration audits the Cancer Association. 100 plus years of research and still no cure. This one will be eye-opening. This one should land guilty parties in front of a firing squad for crimes against humanity in a Nuremberg style accounting of demonic human harm. Is that a little too aggressive? This one should land guilty parties in front of a firing squad for crimes against humanity in a Nuremberg-style accounting of demonic human harm. I mean, when you put it that way. The Western Journal says FBI Director Kash Patel has announced shock arrest of U.S. soldiers who were empowering adversaries like China in a betrayal of our country. This is just the tip of the problem. We suspect. Go get them. Deep state Democrats don't work for you. They will sell out America in a heartbeat if it means they can buy an extra home. Thank you. They need to start arresting people. Where are the effing indictments, David? I agree 100%. Where are the indictments? These two were arrested. I think it was 2. So that's a start. All right, Dominic, Michael Trippy here. Shared from Garbaggio Conspiracy. Says, here are pictures of them at his sister-in-law's estate, allegedly. New Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is a known associate of Ghislaine Maxwell. A photograph being near someone is, not enough, but if Trudeau's own party replaced Trudeau with this guy, you got to assume he's just like the last guy, which is why they need to be retired no later than October and vote Pierre Poilievre in, the Canadian MAGA member. That's my understanding of how this Canadian thing is going to work. Truth Social Club says, Governor Justin Trudeau has been replaced by another weak leftist, Mark Carney, as Prime Minister of Canada. These people will never learn. Trump is going to continue walking the Canadian leader around on a leash. I'm not sure Canada can be saved at this point. Well, I guess they have another election coming up. If my understanding is wrong on that, please let me know. But if I do have it right, it's so painful when you got to make a change and you can't make it fast enough. It's just brutal. Matt Kibbe here saying the systemic grift being exposed by Doge is proving our libertarian point. taxation is theft. It is. Romanian MP George Simeon alleges political suppression in Romania.
Many of you ask me what is happening now in Romania. We are in an ongoing coup d'etat. Mr. Georgescu.
An ongoing coup d'etat. This is exactly what they tried to do what they did do to Bolsonaro down in Brazil. It's what they tried to do to Trump.
Who put his candidacy at the Central Bureau, Electoral Bureau, and by 10 persons to 4, by 10 members to 4, it was rejected without any reason. All the papers were in good order. They just said they voted through their conscience. Now there are 5 judges there. All of them voted against him, and 5 representatives of the parties that are actually in power. The 4 votes for Mr. Georgescu were from our side of the opposition. We live in a dictatorship. Please help us. Please be. Many of you ask.
They need a lot of help. You need strong U.S. leadership. We should have our Secretary of State in there right now. Get J.D. Vance there. Get President Trump. Make this a national issue. And you got to figure out what they're trying to do. Lula's trying to attack Bolsonaro down in Brazil. That's not okay either. What they tried to do to Trump, they're trying to do in multiple other countries. We can't let it happen. I'm not saying we get interventionist per se. What I am saying is that we have to use the bully pulpit of the United States megaphone to try to stand up to anyone, anywhere who's fighting on behalf of the people instead of the deep state. Where the deep state gets their claws sunk into people, that's where that demonic energy starts to spiral out from. That's what some of the problems that have been in Ukraine since 2014, when Victoria Nuland, Barack Obama, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Burisma, Zelensky, it's when they overthrew their nation. Things started spiraling from there. And you really can't let the deep state get footholds anywhere, because they're cancer. They are pure cancer. They are just toxin. Pure toxic. They are toxins. Speaking of toxins, AOC complaining about Doge. How anyone could complain about how anybody could complain about Doge is beyond my comprehension.
Doge did not exist 2 years ago. 19-year-olds were not raiding the Treasury.
Raiding.
2 years ago. People who have no idea with medical background have not been hauling in and creating kangaroo courts for science.
Medical backgrounds, kangaroo courts for science. She's just throwing a bunch of buzzwords up against the wall.
Scientists to dismiss them 2 years ago. That started happening now. Elon Musk is not a scientist.
I think he's a rocket scientist, actually. I mean, right?
He is not an engineer.
Elon is not an engineer. This might be the dumbest thing you've ever heard.
He is a billionaire con man with a lot of money. Doge did not exist 2 years ago.
Yeah. This might actually be the dumbest thing AOC has ever gargled. And that's saying something. Hello. He's not a scientist or an engineer. Okay. Do we want to make America healthy again? I think so.
I hate to be so emphatic, but we've been ridiculed and lambasted by every one of you over and over and over again, while our children got sicker and sicker and sicker, and more of them died.
By the way, let me pause about that. As kids are getting sicker and sicker, and more of them are dying. David, remind me again, you're in Canada? Is that right? Is it Ontario? I'm trying to remember. I think you and a couple people were talking when we had the show. By the way, did you enjoy that conversation with Adam Kokesh and myself? Check it out. It's on Rumble and YouTube. Yeah, we spent the whole first part of that episode talking about Earth ships and off-the-grid self-sustainable living. And then at one point, I believe Adam called me a pussy for not building an Earthship yet. And I'm like, hey, I got out of Los Angeles. I'm in a nice halfway house right now. I'm very happy that I am no longer in California. That's a win. I'm like, yes, ideally I would like to be in an Earthship. I don't need it at this second, but it would be nice. Okay, yes, Ontario. I did remember that. But yeah, we talked about it, and David was in that conversation with us. Seemed fun. A lot of good comments and a lot of good questions coming out of that. Okay, so Carney's a criminal. Why is Carney a criminal? What do we need to know about the new governor of Canada? We're going to call him a governor because that might be our 51st state. Oh, okay. You're saying that Carney hasn't even been in the country the last few years. Where has he been? Epstein Island or something? Saying everyone is being lied to in Canada. The problem is in Canada is that a lot of people are mind controlled. Yeah, we got that problem in the United States. That's why I'm calling for Bobby Kennedy Jr. to launch an initiative to help people unbrainwash from all the lies from the lying legacy media and from academia. They hate every single thing that President Trump and MAGA and Republicans stand for because they're about the deep state. And so they're taught to advocate for positions that are harmful to their own self-interest, harmful to the health and wellness of the nation. So yeah, I think in the United States, we need to have something that will help people break free from the brainwashing. And it sounds like you need that in Canada as well. Good. You said it was a good conversation. I thought so too. Adam's he's pretty aggressively libertarian. I think things took a turn when I tried to bring up, see if there was any praise he could heap on Donald Trump for, going through the assassination attempt and then, talking about getting rid of the Department of Education and the IRS and the income tax and getting into crypto and like doing some really good things. But I think to Adam, it's more ideologically speaking, anything short of the libertarian utopia, it's not what he's looking for. I get it, but I mean, these are massive potential steps. And my God, we'd be so much worse off under Kamala Harris, right? But this is where libertarians and I tend to disagree. I think there's pragmatic reasons, as I brought up with Dave Smith, and he brought up COINTELPROs and Angela McArdle, and maybe they took over the Libertarian Party to kind of get them to funnel their energy to the Republicans, which is not the purpose of the Libertarian Party. I get what he's saying. I respect his opinion, but that being said, I've seen a great 6 or 7 weeks. I do have problems with the last 6 or 7 weeks, but anyway, it was an interesting chat for sure. David saying what is this? The Bank of England or something to do with the IMF. Okay. Yeah, he's a deep state puppet is what it seems to be. It's crazy they would even consider him. But yeah, that's the only person they could consider. Someone that's bribed and blackmailed and manipulated and controlled. That's exactly who they are. Anyway, back to Maha here about the chronic illnesses surging 400% in the 60s and 70s.
38,000 reported deaths for the COVID vaccine alone, and none of you are asking a question. How do they explain that? Wouldn't we pull any other product in the world? No. In America, we say, let's give it to the children now. Let's put it on the schedule for children who have a 0.0002% risk of death from COVID. These are shocking stats that I've never seen you report on. We'll see if you start reporting now that we have a truth teller inside of government. And we'll see if you start reporting as you watch this movement in the hands of the people.
The music's getting loud. The Maha movement growing every single day. I don't want it to get on. They're going to look for who's supporting them. They've seen who's lied to them. Maybe they can forgive you. I will if you start doing your job. Thank you. The Maha movement. Yeah, I muted the music because I didn't want a copyright claim. Even though these are like generic songs that are royalty free, they still pop on your YouTube algorithm as like, oh, you played copywritten material. No, I didn't. All right, back to what's going on in Syria. And if you want to go down the rabbit hole, go on X and type in Yeah, I want to unsee the picture of that person who was crucified and had his head blown off from behind. I watched it a few times. It was like on a loop, watching it repeat every 5 seconds, trying to understand what I was watching. And it's, if there's persecutions of Christians over there, then there's persecutions of Christians everywhere. And this needs to be talked about, and this needs to be resisted. This needs to be resolved. Here's Donald Trump talking about Assad. Remember, Assad gassed his own people. Vladimir Putin blew up his own pipeline. It's like, who the hell, what kind of hack writer is coming up with these stories that you're supposed to go out on lying legacy media and regurgitate 1,000 times to the point where, I guess Assad is gassing his own people. I guess Putin did blow up his own pipeline because that makes sense. Donald Trump in 2015, before he won I believe this is before he won the presidency. Well, it had to be because he won in 16, took over in 17. He was right to say, hold on with Syria here. Remember, Barack Hussein Obama with a major preference for Islam, major preference for resettling Islamists into non-Islamic countries to permanently change their demographics. You've seen the UK, you've seen the European Union get invaded by military-aged Muslim men. You've seen it. You've watched the Obama doctrine repopulate America with non-Americans from Central America, South America, Middle East, Africa. There's always been an anti-Christian bias from Obama. Oh, wait, but he's a Christian. Is he? Is he, though? It's not God bless America. It's goddamn America. Says his pastor, Reverend Wright. Remember that? Little red schoolhouse he used to study at. Commie, Marxist, Leninist crap. But there is a global situation brewing. And during those days of Obama, it was all, we got to get Assad. We got to get Assad. Assad hates his people. Does he, though? Does he? Or is Assad actually protecting the good guys there, and you're trying to arm the bad guys? Kind of like how you and McCain and Lindsey Graham and all these people, it's kind of like how you, Obama, created ISIS, protected ISIS, funded ISIS, and unleashed that demonic activity across the Middle East and Africa. It's almost like you're the bad guy who seized control of the United States for 8 years and then ran cover from the shadows for another 8 years, 16 years of the Obama doctrine, reshaping the globe in your image, in your idealistic view. President Trump kind of had a hunch back in 2015 about what was going on with Syria and Assad. Whoop, where's the volume?
And I've watched a little bit on the other side. The problem is the other side of Assad, we have no idea who they are. They probably are ISIS. I'm saying, are we better off with Assad? We have no idea who these people are. We give them weapons, we give them ammunition, we give them everything. Aaron, we have no idea who, I mean, maybe it's worse than Assad. So what are we doing? Why are we involved? We have to get rid of ISIS, very importantly. But I look at Assad, and Assad to me...
Getting rid of ISIS was getting rid of McCain and Obama. Obama created ISIS. Go figure. Hey, hello to Deb. Good morning, Brian. Just listening in. Thanks for checking in. By the way, here's a note. Everybody who's watching, please hit like. Please hit subscribe. Hit the thumbs up button if you're watching on one of the apps. Like I think Facebook has the thumbs up app. I think YouTube has it. Tap the thumbs up or tap the hearts or something. Get that engagement going. Leave a couple comments. And just like Deb did and how David has, wherever you're watching from, check in. Say hello real quick. Give us your name or your initials. Tell us where you're watching from. Got Ontario in the house. We got Canada in the house. We got California in the house. Sacramento in the house. Let's get back to Trump here. You got to stop ISIS.
He looks better than the other side. And, you know, this has happened before. We back a certain side, and that side turns out to be a total catastrophe. Russia likes Assad seemingly a lot. Let them worry about ISIS. Let them fight it out. So I've watched Assad, and I've watched a little bit on the other side. The problem...
Yep. And so Russia was like, no, keep Assad. And Obama's like, no, we got to get rid of Assad. We got to make sure that there's a Christian massacre, that Islamists are going to run rampant and take over these countries, these cities, and massacre Christians. Why was that? Why was Obama so interested in the caliphate? And why was the Russian Orthodox trying to defend Christianity? And why was Putin made to be the bad guy? Oh, are we ready to have the conversation about the bad guys and the good guys? All the way back in time? How far back do we go? A couple of years? A couple decades? A couple more? They made Russia and Putin the bad guy. They made Assad the bad guy. Oh, did they? They made Trump the bad guy too. Remember? So who are these people running the deep state, and what is their end goal? What is the end goal of the deep state? Why does it always seem like Christians in Christianity is in the crosshairs of the deep state demons? That's interesting. This happened. This happened a couple weeks ago, but it's an important point. This is a good conversation here. Jon Stewart is supposed to be having an interview with Elon Musk. We'll see if that happens. Here you go. Whoop, where's the? Hold on.
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you are not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? An $850 billion.
Why is she laughing uncomfortably? This isn't funny. Looking nervous.
$1 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went. Like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. But I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. Like, to me, that's fucking corruption. If I give...
And she's there laughing like Kamala Harris. Uncomfortable, goofy laughter. Talk about the corruption and the propaganda. Here's Elon talking with Rogan.
People are fed nonstop propaganda. It is like mass hypnosis.
Right.
You're going to reach some number of people who are, homicidal, and convince them that, well, if you kill this guy who's supposed to be like this terrible human, then that's a good thing.
Yeah.
If people are fed nonstop propaganda, it is like mass hypnosis.
Right.
You're going to reach some number of people who are, homicidal.
Yeah, the lying legacy media is recruiting and encouraging their foot soldiers to commit violence. And that is probably because they have terrible ideas. If they had better ideas, they wouldn't need to resort to violence. And they've put Elon Musk in the crosshairs now. So to anyone out there who is the type of soul who would pray for the health and safety of people, you would want to pray for Elon and Trump and everybody in their family and organizations at this point. All right. Here's Joel Salatin. He is going to be a part of this administration. And here he is telling you to not let the media lie to you about the bird flu.
Influenza. It's been in the news a lot lately. Remember, every time it starts in a concentrated animal feeding operation or some sort of industrial concentrated situation that's unhygienic, unsanitary, and fully vaccinated, medicated, adulterated, pharmaceuticalized, and everything else you can imagine. When the industry blames wild birds, they always say, oh, it's these ducks, it's these geese, it's these wild critters that are bringing this in. Listen, any kind of production system that demonizes wildlife is automatically wrong. You can't have any kind of actual credible food production system in which wildlife is the enemy. That's number one. So on its surface, it's just an enemy. And, you know, how long have geese and ducks had this? You know, thousands and thousands of years? They're still around. The thing that gets me about avian influenza is the response to it. So in any flock that gets avian influenza, there are always survivors. Many times, some more survivors than not. Now you would think.
By the way, that creates more of it builds up their immune system when they survive it, and that helps with herd immunity.
That if the people in charge were actually thinking, that they would say, we got a flock here of chickens. Some got it, some didn't. Why don't we save the ones that didn't? We'll take their genetics and breed them, and maybe we'll actually breed in more robust immune systems. Wow, fancy that. Wouldn't that be cool? No. If you have 10,000 birds in a flock, one bird's got avian influenza, immediately, by government decree, all of them must be exterminated.
And that's what Biden did to 50 million chickens at the ass end of his destructive administration there. That's why it's almost impossible to get eggs unless you're the first one that shows up right as the doors are opening at your Trader Joe's or your Target. It's been almost impossible to find them. But yeah, Joel Salatin, by the way, I'm looking it up, double checking, and there were reports that he was named an advisor to the Secretary for the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And then Joel Salatin denying rumors that he joined the USDA. Either way, he's an important voice worth listening to. And that's just common sense. You don't kill all the birds. The ones that make it through are the strongest. You want more of that. You don't kill them all.
All of them. Survivors, non-survivors, everything, okay? And so the whole program about avian influenza is about extermination. That is never a way to actually get ahead of disease. You know, I'm waiting for them to say, I wonder if we should try putting these chickens out on pasture, moving them around all the time, give them some fresh area to be, and feed them non-GMO feeds instead of genetically modified organism feeds. And let's see if we can build a better immune system so that they're so robust they won't get avian influenza. Back many years ago, when high-path avian influenza hit Indochina, remember when it came through Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and all stuff? The UK did some experiments. They found that if a chicken eats 2 fresh blades of grass a day, 2 blades of fresh grass a day, she doesn't get avian influenza, all right? Well, ours are eating way more than 2 blades. And so we trust the immune system. We trust the system. We don't sit here, paranoid and paralyzed in fear. We believe that a robust immune system and an avian influenza.
There you go. So that's something to realize. That's how bad things get when you allow people like Joe Biden and the Democrats to set policies. They kill off all the birds unnecessarily, and then we all suffer. Oh, but what about the egg prices? The egg prices that you caused? Yeah, we can talk about that. Here's one from the media and the radical left spending months calling Tulsi Gabbard a Russian agent because she was warning about Syria's rebels. Everything that she said is happening right now as they are butchering Christians all across the country.
I shed no tears for the fall of the Assad regime, but today we have an Islamist extremist who is now in charge of Syria, as I said, who danced on the streets to celebrate the 9/11 attack, who ruled over Idlib with an Islamist extremist governance, and who has already begun to persecute and kill and arrest religious minorities like Christians in Syria.
I understand.
Why that should be acceptable to anyone is beyond me.
It shouldn't
is
be.
certainly
and
not
I understand,
in our
and
interests.
I appreciate.
There you go. That's why we like Tulsi Gabbard being involved in this Trump administration. All right, let's go ahead and jump to our lightning round here on X. That was the Instagram feed. I was typing in about, can Pierre Poilievre become the Canadian leader? I just want to make sure I have the understanding right. And Grok replied saying, yes, Pierre can become the Canadian leader. specifically the Prime Minister of Canada, if certain conditions are met. In Canada, the Prime Minister is not directly elected by the public, but it is typically the leader of the political party that wins the most seats in the House of Commons during a federal election that does that. Pierre is currently the leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, a major federal political party, as of March 10, 2025. For him to become Prime Minister, the following needs to happen. He needs to win a federal election. The Conservative Party under Poilievre's leadership needs to secure a plurality of seats, more than any other party, in the House of Commons in a federal election. The next election is set for no later than October 20th of 25. Then he forms a government, blah, 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 and then he meets the eligibility requirements. So, yes, the short answer is yes, he can. And whether he succeeds, we shall see. X is actually acting weird right now. If you see my screen, it's just showing retry. Do you see that? It's not loading. Something went wrong. Try reloading X. Don't understand what that is. It's been working sporadically today. And it's just thinking. And it just says retry. Don't know where to take that. Trying to load my profile with all of the stories that I had queued up to touch upon. And it's not doing it. So this was happening 2 hours ago when I was preparing the show, by the way. So that's where I'm stuck. It just says retry. It's not loading X. So if it's not going to let me pull those up, I'll just tell you that in Washington, D.C., they're dismantling the Black Lives Matter Plaza. I think they were saying it costs $40 million to paint that and make that this big thing over there right by the White House. They are getting rid of that right now. The CBP One app that was dismantled by the Trump administration is now being, I think they're using it to encourage migrant self-deportation, which is a step in the right direction. There's an oil tanker that is smashed into another boat out there in the North Sea. All sorts of flames and fire and calamity. Keep an eye on that. And then, of course, just touching upon U.S. aid programs, cutting 83% of what they had. Don't know what's going on with X. All morning long, it's been a disaster, but I did share a bunch of stuff. So if you want to follow us on X, we're at American_media_. Don't know why we are just stuck on the pinwheel of death here. It's just thinking, not loading, so I can't tell you the stories. So I think that is where I'm going to need to leave it for today. Check out our feed on X. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that was the first part of the show from our Instagram feed is usually about 2/3 of the show. And then the end is the lightning round on X. So just go check it out for yourselves. We'll see if this is working better tomorrow. Once again, thank you to David and Deb and everybody in the chat. Please hit like, hit subscribe, however you're watching. The places to find us once again are on Signal and Telegram at TNAM and TNAM Chat. Our podcast is called The Agree to Disagree Show. That includes our TNAM AM shows. We'll use that as like an umbrella. So subscribe there. Okay, X is loading for you on your Android, Deb. I don't know why it's not loading on my desktop. I don't know what's happening. But I can't pull it up. I can't share it with you today. So we'll try to get it back tomorrow. First day this has ever happened. Okay, yeah, it looks fine for you. It's not working for me. I've refreshed the page. I've logged out and logged. I don't know what the deal is. But yeah, follow the New American Media in all the places. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, our 1,800 videos. Hit the notification bell. And scroll back. Look at some of our most popular videos. Some really fun stuff. Rumble is the new YouTube. We're growing over there and getting better views on Rumble with 150 subscribers than we have with almost 7,000 subscribers on YouTube. Go figure. That's how shadow banned we are. So follow us on Rumble. The New American Media is on Patreon if you'd like to sign up and support independent journalism like ours. We would appreciate that. We're on X at American_media_. And then our channels on Truth Social, Instagram, and Facebook are the New American Media. So I appreciate every one of you joining me today. We're going to log out for now. But if you join our groups, we share different content all day long, covering the news as it breaks. So we'll plan on being back tomorrow morning. And until then, I appreciate you. I love you. And we'll talk to you again soon. Take care.